Welcome to uBook channel. Read and listen to the greatest stories that mankind has ever told. From Iliad to COVID terror, and other famous classics. Enjoy the best world literatures throughout history.
COVID terror. Copyright 2021 by Gerry de Cadiz. All rights reserved. A unified Al-Qaeda and Islamic State took advantage of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in reinvigorating its jihadist cause for dominance and the re-establishment of a caliphate. Holy Bible, Book of Revelation chapter 6 verse 8. I looked, and behold, an ashen horse, and he who sat on it had the name Death, and Hades was following with him. Authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth.
COVID terror. Chapter 23.
United Nations Headquarters, New York City, May 10, 2020. This was the statement of Dr. Guinevere Dalpilar, who discovered a strain of the H-CoV-229E subspecie from a 14th century Black Death victim, in her speech at the United Nations General Assembly, noting the exigency of the human race, to come up with an immediate solution to mitigate, or much better halt, the deadly impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. At the UN headquarters, national representatives assigned to the General Assembly made an emergency meeting, and monitored the ultimatum notice of Aaron al-Hassani. All media outlets did a reprogramming, to accommodate this important broadcast. You may say that I'm so callous to demand from you, something so essential while we are still reeling, with the ongoing worldwide health emergency. Aaron al-Hassani spoke in a measured tone and precise words, befitting for an executive boardroom meeting. But the president-CEO of Al-Hassani Industries is not in a kitten K-50 suit, rather, he is garbed in a silken dark green robe, the khilat, or dress of honor fully adorned with symbols, and a luxurious white undergarment. He wore the camel leather NACL sandal, and has a black head wrap around a small white cap. But there is no opportune time than today, to inform the family of nations of my intention, to formally re-establish the caliphate, after the last Ottoman caliph was deposed nearly a century ago. By now, you've known already that I was the sheikh of the slaughterers, the Wahasha, or beast among the Iraqi locals, the architect of the Shia-Sunni civil war, and the founder of the Islamic State. But to all leaders of nations, listen to this, all that happened were part of Project Yan, a strategy launched and funded by the #1 democratic country in the world, the almighty United States. Diplomats in the assembly from NATO countries looked at each other. They don't expect to be appraised of US top-secret military projects, with their home state. But the political backlash would be severe, and international alliances can be shaken. I will say again what I told my commanders. Password 360 is not a conspiracy theory. It was a continuation of Project Yan, with an outcome of creating, training and equipping an extremist group, who can inflict havoc and violence to destabilize the Middle East. The Islamic State was unleashed to wipe out the despotic rulers of the region, and replace them with more malleable secular leaders. This was part of the long-term strategy of the US and its allies, along with some of its client oil-producing states. He raised the ornately decorated Zulfikar. In video monitors throughout the world, the glistening sharpness and Arabic inscription in the sword of Ali ibn Abi Talib are clearly visible. This is the sword that symbolizes unity among Muslims. I come to you in peace. But we are ready for war. I don't mean to change any regime, Muslim or otherwise. But we are open to anyone who will embrace our faith and practices. To the Americans, I have been with you for too long. I was able to adopt and subsequently loved your culture. Your pragmatism and democratic principles, are the things that I admire most. You are a land of opportunities that whatever I have right now, is because of the support of your great institutions and the market economy. It can be said, that I epitomized the American dream. So, let's talk about business. An image of the entire Sinai Peninsula was shown on the monitor. Several inset pictures were placed side by side, showing the only populated areas of the land, a stark contrast to a wide uninhabited portion. I demand that the United Nations pass and approve a resolution, recognizing the sovereignty of the Caliphate of Islamic State, with the entire Sinai Peninsula as our exclusive territory. The existing Israeli border, Gulf of Aqaba, Red Sea, Gulf of Suez, the Suez Canal and the Mediterranean Sea, will be our territorial limit. For the meantime, East Port Said will serve as our capital city. In the UN General Assembly Hall, the permanent representative of Egypt vigorously raised his hand, to protest the intended disenfranchisement of population in those areas, and undermining the territorial integrity of his country. But nobody paid any attention to him, as the Khalifa continued his demands. To the Egyptian government, the Jama'at al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin had made a commitment, to coordinate with you on the payment for the livelihood and resettlement, of the existing communities in the Sinai, if ever they prefer to move away from our territory. As brothers in faith, I hope the leaders in Cairo won't be too selfish, to share the land to us, that Allah had allotted for his faithful adherents. The next slide resembles to the poster of FBI, on the most wanted terrorists in the world. However, almost all of the featured personalities do not have the typical haggard, disheveled and rugged faces. Instead, the poster looked like a program for a benefit dinner party, with the profile of the sponsors printed prominently. The UN categorized them as terrorists, languishing in several prisons around the world. For the caliphate, these are political leaders, who needs to be freed to help us build our country. I expect that within an hour after this message, they will be on board to a specific flight, that we have booked for them. A detailed accounting balance sheet was shown next on the monitor. The financial statement reports a summary of the complete and computed assets, liabilities, and shareholders' equity of Al-Hassani Industries. Of course, you won't expect me to be staying here after this meeting. I am selling all my assets located within the U.S. territory, to certain pre-selected corporations operating offshore. In the next 45 minutes, I must have all the deeds of sale duly notarized, and confirmed by concerned agencies. Payments must be deposited to an account I texted to the owner's assignees. At least, we will have a fund to make a good start. Nuts? Those are hollow words of a raving madman. General Alexander Leahy declared, in front of the assembled members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other top-ranking officers of the U.S. military at the National Military Command Center. The NMCC is a command and communications center, for the National Command Authority of the U.S. military and its defense establishment. Among its tasks cover a crisis response component, primarily to immediately respond to any emergency, man-made or natural, which may be of defense significance. From the War Room's Mission Control Monitor, the Pentagon officials were able to detect the shift in tone of the Khalifa. The jihadist leader reverted his talk from a gentle statesman, to that of an arrogant revolutionary. I know that everybody will be saying, bullshit, nuts, it's a prank, madman, and other expressions of disbelief. But try to look at this and let's have a game of hide and seek. The first video shows two cylindrical objects, securely fastened in giant air-cooled condensers, while another two similar objects were tied to a compressor apparatus. As you can see from the stenciled marking, it has a U+2623 biohazard symbol. Imagine, if it explodes inside a refrigeration system for a group of large buildings, the ricin poison mixing with the air, that about 50,000 people could fatally breathe. The next video shows an underwater location, wherein similar canisters were being suspended with blinking blasting caps. A Las Vegas Sun newspaper issued yesterday and attached next to the cylinders, clearly shows that the setup is actual and current. The video was cut and moved to another location, showing the same schema of the bioweapons. This one and the other weapons are insurances that we will not be tricked by the government. For the residents of California, Nevada, and Arizona, I'm sure that you will have second thoughts in drinking a ricin poisoned and coronavirus contaminated water. Just a trivia, Dr. Amira Siddiqui, the brilliant scientist that you imprisoned and persecuted, was able to find out that SARS-CoV-2 can survive in water for 15 days. If it's coupled with the exact dosage of ricin in a liquid solution, you will have a super bioweapon that looks like a casual afternoon tequila in an oversized baby milk bottle. A video of the Hoover Dam was being played, showing both upstream and downstream slopes. The different facilities, especially the powerhouses, were highlighted. The camera panned towards a submerged object, of about 80 centimeters in length and 30 centimeters in diameter, and could have an estimated mass of 130 kilograms, cylindrical and tapered at one end. That is the W-80 thermonuclear weapon. As you can see, it's suspended halfway through the face of that structure. Another similar weapon is positioned on the opposite side of the Hoover Dam. Once it goes off, the structure will be ruptured in the middle, and the stocked water in the dam, having a pressure of 45,000 pounds per square foot, will do the rest. Everyone who kept track of the words of Al-Hassani cringed at the thought of having 2 nuclear warheads explode right within the US continental territory. And the man saying those words appears professionally serious, a true businessman and negotiator. By the way, I'm good in a game of chess. To the generals out there who think of searching and disabling those toys, don't dare make any attempt. You're just making some false moves that you will definitely regret afterwards. A little exhibition happened early this morning, on the vicinity of the Hoover Dam Visitors Center. Military technicians and weapons experts scrambled to determine the level of threat. They recognized easily the weapons as part of the U.S. enduring stockpile. Each thermonuclear warhead has a variable yield of 5 to 150 kiloton of TNT, enough to blow to heavens the dam and everything in its surroundings. How in hell was he able to get his dirty hands on that W-80? General Leahy stomped to where Dan Mitchell Cray was leaning. "Mike, how did it slip from your hands?" In response, the commander of the Air Force Global Strike Command handed the JCS chairman a report titled, Bent Spear Version 2, W-80 Incident. The official report identified deviations from established safety, security, and transfer procedures that explain the circumstances and details of the unauthorized transfer of nuclear weapons. A commander-directed report of investigation, prepared by Major General Douglas L. Raberg, provided some details on the incident. On August 29, 2007, 6 AGM-129 ACM cruise missiles, each loaded with a W-80-1 variable yield nuclear warhead, were mistakenly loaded onto a United States Air Force B-52H heavy bomber, at Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, and transported to Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. The nuclear warheads in the missiles were supposed to have been removed before the missiles were taken from their storage bunker. The missiles with the nuclear warheads were not reported missing by the in-charge personnel, and remained mounted to the aircraft at both Minot and Barksdale for about 36 hours. During this period, the warheads were not protected by the various mandatory security precautions for nuclear weapons. I recommended at that time to conduct a follow-up investigation of the case. The statement, "The warheads were not protected by the various mandatory security precautions," should be a cause for worry. That's the perfect time the crooks were waiting to snatch a pair of loaded ACM, and probably replace it with some dud arrows. The Pentagon overall commander interjected, knowing that certain heads of top civilian and military rolled after the incident, which satisfied the paper pushers in Washington. General Cray explained, the coming up with the second version of the report. The chiefs waived my motion for some considerations from the White House. At that time, the national issue was, whether or not an additional 30,000 American troops in Baghdad could make an impact to the ongoing military escalation in Iraq. But I did it anyway under the auspices of my office. As this was only authorized on my level, I have to keep it to myself. The subsequent classification of the incident should have been broken arrow, under category of loss in transit of nuclear asset, without its carrying vehicle. So, you're saying that 2 of our warheads were shoplifted, without the manager knowing it after an inventory? Sort of, sir. The FBI confirmed that it may have gone inside the bag of the illegals program network, and we lost track of it in the next 13 years, until now. General Leahy called his chief of staff, prepare a memo for a command conference in 30 minutes. Agenda, fireball. Keep an open line to the White House starting now. As the military officers returned their attention to the live video feed of the broadcast of Al-Hassani, the Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary came into view. It's a maximum security federal prison on Alcatraz Island, which is 1.25 miles off the coast of San Francisco, California, that was abandoned since March 21, 1963, when the Federal Bureau of Prisons decided to close it from public use. It was only recently that the government reopened the facility as a museum and a hub for entertainment and social activities. Aaron was saying, the Alcatraz has been believed to be escape-proof, and America's strongest prison. For me, it will serve another purpose. The camera focused on the Advanced Combat Direction System, showing the island prison as a target profile, the live image being framed by a green blinking line. Welcome to my little fun house. I am fully aware that the US war machineries are all in position besieging my properties. Your rangers are likewise waiting for the command to spring to action against my mujahideen, defending our installations at the Hoover Dam. So, I will give you an exhibition of what we can do if you cross our path and fail to meet my demands. With a malevolent snicker, Aaron tapped gently the selected image of Alcatraz Island. For a second, the images on the monitors of those watching the show got blurred. When the image came back, everybody were shocked. Instead of seeing the prominent Alcatraz cell house and other structures, what remains is a wasteland and a mushroom cloud, generated by the 2-kiloton warhead embedded 2 meters underground, to minimize the radioactive fallout to the San Francisco Bay Area. Sorry guys, but you've got to wait for another 50 years, before you can play Battle of Alcatraz. Christian Finch used to work as an Associate Deputy Attorney General, before his appointment in 2018, as Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. His private practice also gave him the edge to litigate some of the trickiest cases, which involved Fortune 100 personalities, who can afford the most expensive law firms in the country. Bill, am I to assume that we will be opening a can of worms in this case? The FBI director addressed the former assistant to the president for planning and special affairs. Much worse than that, I suppose. Dr. William Blitzky gave a knowing smile, sipping his hot chocolate at the FBI cafeteria. As the nominal White House troubleshooter, until his firing halfway through the presidential re-election bid, he was privy to certain shadowy transactions, involving cabinet officials, bigwigs from Capitol Hill, and some military officers. Don't tell me it goes up to the top. Director Finch does not have any political affiliation, yet he owes something to his appointing authority. In this instance, I don't think the big man himself is even aware of what some protégés were doing. Dr. Blitzky memorized the names on the list given to him by the CIA agent, Hot Ice. At the top is the Assistant to the President for Policy and International Relations, and the Deputy Cabinet Secretary. The names of Senator Charles McCornell and other influential members of Congress were listed also. General Friedrich Clark was the highest-ranking Pentagon official, along with other top brass involved in military arms procurement. The decorated officer was only used by Aaron Al-Hassani to have an access with military hardware. His records at the Pentagon and CIA were unblemished with corruption and any misconduct in office. In fact, the general was murdered when he started investigating the anomalous activities of the AI executive. That information is helpful. I started already rounding up those scalawags and misfits I found in your list. The former IPSA decided to cooperate with the FBI, after he discovered from the documents that Hot Eye sent to him, that millions of dollars worth of grants and donations from Al-Hassani Industries were coursed through private accounts of those government officials on the given document. What makes him scream traitors is when he saw that those financial transactions were used as front by the Al-Qaeda ISIS to procure choppers, tactical vehicles, missiles, high-caliber weapons, firearms, ammunitions, and other war materiel. I'm hoping that you deployed a team to the Saltwells Villa in Fallon City, to investigate what they have done to the 15 tons of castor beans. Dr. Blitzky would like to set aside the unthinkable. The FBI director gazed into the distance. He could still recall the 9/11 attacks, when members of the intelligence community could not agree what specifically is the real threat, what would be the targets, and when the terrorists will strike. I understand. I made that as top priority. A large volume of ricin poison in the hands of terrorists within our territory is like saying that you allowed the North Koreans to station and operate their nuclear weapons in Florida and California. An hour ago, Director Finch issued a general alert to all field agents to put under surveillance all identified Al-Qaeda ISIS members and sympathizers. He directed his staff to prepare the corresponding cases to be filed at the Office of the U.S. Attorney General, especially as principal or accomplice to do treasonous acts, among others, against the people of the United States. The FBI chief knew the law that will apply to those involved with terrorism. With the ultimatum of Aaron al-Hassani, these people can be charged with crimes against humanity and genocide, to be lodged at the International Court of Justice in The Hague. That will also enable us to go after the financial assets of anyone involved in this outrageously wicked enterprise. Anything that the US government can get from those secret accounts can be used in the different projects we have to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Amira Siddiqui cancelled the ringing of her phone as she accepted a call from the broker. To be fair, the guy had contributed a lot to Operation Zulfikar, first on identifying and providing the manner in which the arenavirus could be accessed at the AI Med laboratory, then on facilitating the immediate endorsement of the World Health Organization for the approval of Sinovac to be manufactured and distributed. Dr. Grimwood, I guess my previous tips worked out fine. Our tally keeps on surging, especially among major cities of the US, India, Brazil, France, Russia, and other countries that the Valkyrie agents had visited. The stolen viral strain resulted to the experimentation and formulation of a type of virus, in which the SARS-CoV-2 strain was matched with a specific genetic makeup, which could either stay neutral or attack the lungs of its host. The hybrid virus was successfully propagated and spread by the Valkyrie squadron among the most populous cities throughout the world. The sudden spikes in COVID-related infections that the WHO noted during the second quarter of the year were the manifestations of the success of the coronavirus and arenavirus experiments. Dr. Malas F. Warkey, let's take off the masquerade, shall we? Amira knew that the confidant of the Director General has been using the authority of WHO and the name of Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus to extort favors and financial gains from institutions that has a dealing with the UN Health Agency. That's fine with me, Dr. Amira Siddiqui, he countered. I wanted to confirm if you would still be interested with lecturing at the WHO Academy. We will be opening our classes this month. The Chief Learning Officer previously qualified the scientist as a professor to the WHO's state-of-the-art training institution. The WHO Academy is dedicated in bringing the lifelong learning revolution of the 21st century to the health sector in response to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Oh, that one. Amira was so busy with her part in Operation Zulfikar that she forgot the application she submitted to the WHO Academy in Geneva. I guess I have to waive for now that teaching opportunity. Soon, I intend to go back to Pakistan, for a well-deserved vacation and visit to my family. Of course, she knows that whatever happens in the series of events that is unfolding right now, her life will be changed forever. If they would be successful, she had agreed to come with Aaron to Port Said as his consort, Sayyidat al-Khalifa. Alone at the WHO Academy Administrative Office, Dr. Malas F. Warki contemplated on the rejection he got from Amira. She could have been a good addition to the faculty. But I understand the predicament you are in at the moment, he thought. Everyone at WHO headquarters watched the ultimatum that the Khalifa enunciated. It's trending worldwide, the #US nuke and #America under siege. Although there were conspiracists who mentioned that the abrupt spiking of infections was due to deliberate works of a group of extremists in spreading the virus by air, nobody took any notice, except those in the intelligence agencies of some countries. Various governments thought that the sudden surge of cases in early April was a result of unmitigated carelessness of people to practice health protocols. So far, nothing was mentioned about any acts of terrorism related to COVID-19. Except on the words of Al-Hassani, drinking a ricin-poisoned and coronavirus-contaminated water. He was called to the WHO conference room, where two gentlemen and a lady are waiting. The Deputy Secretary General motioned for him to face the visitors. The lady spoke, "I am Hauptmann Fabienne Och, from the Organisation Internationale de Police Criminelle, and these are officers of the Genocide Justice und Polizeidepartement. Dr. Malas F. Warki, you are under arrest for the transnational crime of terrorism." The Interpol captain declared to him the Miranda warning, as the two officers from the Federal Department of Justice and Police got hold of his wrists to put a handcuff. The charge is based on your collaboration with a wanted international terrorist, Amira Siddiqui, recently identified as working for Al-Hassani Industries, on projects involving the formulation and propagation of the COVID-19 virus. You were also an accomplice to the robbery at AI Med Laboratory, of a composite viral strain that had been studied from the Cocolistli epidemic in 16th century Central America. Captain Och never mentioned that the Interpol was tipped by a certain CIA agent Hot Ice on the identity and whereabouts of the broker, whose actions related to WHO were most of the time without authorization from higher authorities. His influence enabled the jihadist group of Aaron al-Hassani to have an access to critical technologies and expertise in formulating biowarfare weapons. He also certified as essential in developing medicines for cancer the purchase and delivery of 15 tons of castor beans, that may have become the ricin poison that the Khalifa earlier mentioned in his ultimatum to the United Nations. Sunset is always mesmerizing in Sunshine State. The deep purple, red, and gold hues were usually the motif of photographers, artists and videographers lining the mile-long beaches of Florida. The panoramic view encapsulates a 3-story mansion that only a Forbes lister can afford, like the AI top executive. The Vero Beach compound was identified through GPS coordinates as the target structure. According to naval intelligence, it may have an overstrength squad of mujahideen guarding the property of Aaron al-Hassani.
I don't expect you to be making a few laps in the infinity pool. The representative from the Office of Naval Intelligence looked at the assembled operators as she pointed the layout of the building. As always, the best way to get in is not by the door, but through a ripped fence or over the wall. That's why darkness makes the sailors perk up, as it cloaks them in anonymity to go near any highly secured barricade. You mean that we can't enjoy a refreshing breeze at the pier to soothe an old sailor's muscles? You should avoid that too, Commander. Although we expect that the master of the house is out, some helpers could be pesky and harass your leisurely walk with AK-47 7.62 by 39 mm hot leads following your path. The ONI lady winked at Lieutenant Commander Patrick Kaufman, to the laughter of sailors from the Silver Squadron's headhunters. It is advisable to muzzle first a number of canines that serve as live patrols in the compound. Avoid also the garden pots. It might have some poppers. She encircled on the map the known gun emplacements and usual defense positions of the Al-Qaeda ISIS warriors, on detail at the Khalifa's mansion. Our inside information noted that there are about 20 strong fighters holed up in that building. These are veterans from the Special Forces Brigade of the Presidential Palace, the remnants of Saddam Hussein's elite personal security force. She cautioned them of the opposition. What does the Golden Division do here? We don't have camels in the southeast for their target practice. A neophyte trooper thought of being a wise ass. Pipe down, boyo. They're more interested in the story of Aladdin, by the amiable ladies at Bare Assets Melbourne. The ONI officer threw a pun. What a shame. We need to neutralize first the bad guys, before taking a stroll on the lawn to enjoy the striking moon of Florida. A senior chief petty officer chuckled, who volunteered to lead one team of assaulters. The intelligence officer continued her briefing. Of course, no masseuse will present herself when you enter the house. Go directly to the right wing of the third floor. According to the previous house cleaner, there is a room that she is not allowed to go inside to do her chores. There may be life-size posters of Playboy's Playmate of the Month, that the master does not want her to see. A petty officer second class offered an explanation. That may not be the case, sailor. It can have some interesting souvenirs and love letters. I guess you can distinguish some items that we can auction, you know what I mean. Pretty easy. Looks like Easter egg hunting. A Master Chief Petty Officer opined. As the highest enlisted SEAL, his role is to advise the troop commander of resources and tactics anytime, even in the heat of battle. That's what SEAL Team 6 is all about.
True enough, the opposition should not to be taken lightly. Lieutenant Commander Patrick Kaufman checked his position, and the deployment of DevGru operators. As the night set in, lights inside the mansion started to pop, except a portion on the third floor's right wing. Jafar, target box in black, he radioed the troop chief. Aladdin. The MCPO acknowledged. From now on, they will observe minimum to zero radio chatter. The team has been trained to navigate and operate in combat, by hand signals alone. But the troop commander enjoys a new gadget the assaulters called Pirate's Map. It's a tactical digital map system originally designed for air assets, but the Pentagon R&D department directed the supplier to modify the technology to suit the needs of personnel, in enhancing their navigational and operational capabilities. A satellite imagery was fed to the digital map, and outlined their avenue of attack and targets. The green dots inform the commander of the position of friendly elements, while a red one identify it as bad guy. Genies, how's the stars? Lieutenant Commander Kaufman asked for situation inside the compound from his snipers, who are in position from tall buildings at opposite directions of the target. Genie 1 to Aladdin. Royal guards are everywhere, 5 in my wall, but I can count 3 shadows at 2 o'clock. The operator with a US Barrett M82, reported of 5 enemies in the southern section, plus about 3 mujahideen at the eastern side near the entrance. Genie 2 to Aladdin. 3 Romeo Golf in my wall, plus 3 at 3 o'clock. The other sniper responded, of seeing 6 Al-Qaeda ISIS fighters on his sector. Obviously, the rest are inside the mansion. Aladdin, beware of Yago. The MCPO advised, referring to series of CCTV surrounding the complex that may reveal their assault. Those cameras will be the first to go, as a standard for a SEAL attack. Tango Yankee for that, Jafar, he acknowledged. Everything is in place. The mission is to capture the building, and neutralize all personnel with offensive capability. A room at the third floor, believed to be the personal sanctuary of Aaron al-Hassani, has to be raided, and anything with intelligence and military value should be seized. Without warning, the entire complex went dark. Seems like the opposition was informed of the impending assault. So as not to waste precious time, Lieutenant Commander Kaufman ordered to commence the attack. Genies, proceed with desert rain. The snipers started shooting anything that moves in their sights, as the rest of the DevGru operators put on their night vision goggle. No time for niceties, the troop commander signaled at the sailors behind him. Team, enjoy the magic carpet ride, was the order to begin with the assault. As the CCTVs were put out and the dogs were shot with tranquilizers, the team attacked in a coordinated fashion. Within a minute, 5 sentries were felled by snipers, as the rest of the mujahideen scampered inside the house for cover. SEAL Team 6 avoided the lawn and the pool areas, as these were planted with anti-personnel mines. A spy drone flown earlier revealed a gun emplacement at both ends of the compound, and these became the reason for the slow phase of moving forward. 2 Maximi lightweight belt-fed machine guns, firing 7.62 by 51 mm NATO cartridges from a disintegrating belt of ammunition, were positioned in a V-crossfire, herding the DevGru operators into an open area that is prone to sniping from the upper floor. The neophyte was hit in the leg. He's writhing in pain, as his buddy pulled him behind cover for safety. The gunnery SCPO called out for the RPG-carrying sailor, who made short work of the targets. Aladdin, I popped the magic dragons. A report signifying that the machine guns were neutralized. The mansion has a basement that opens to the pool at the back. 2 M67 fragmentation grenades were simultaneously thrown inside, after a team positioned themselves along the wall for a synchronized assault. 3 seconds after hearing the blasts, the 4 operators charged into the smoky cavern, and shoot anything that poses as a threat. Clear. A team member on the right roared. All clear. The other members on opposite directions barked, as 3 black-cladded fighters were flushed out. About 10 jihadists form a defensive position in the ground floor, behind some sturdy wooden furniture, having a clear shot of anyone who will enter the main door. The POSC volunteered to go in first, and he was bushwhacked on the right shoulder. A quick drag from the man next to him saved the guy of becoming the first lethal casualty. These guys are rude. Think we're uninvited? The troop commander hollered. Commander Kaufman whispered on the radio. Jafar, do you think you can check the fridge for a nice sandwich, while I'll keep their attention here? Aye, sir. The MCPO signaled for his team to sneak behind the mansion, and possibly enter the building from the back. A side door opened up and 3 jihadists came forth. The first one was immediately knocked out by a team sniper. The other 2 escaped the next volley and run, following the MCPO team to the back of the mansion. A genie broke silence. Jafar, 2 nannies behind you. They thought your gunna stole their undies. The assaulters made an ambush position using the box planters. As the 2 black-cladded fighters came around the corner, they were surprised to find no one. They made a mistake of removing their night vision goggles and switching on the flashlight. Too much time was lost. They never noticed the 2 figures who leaped at them from behind. Like a pair of acrobats, the SEAL operators never hesitated putting the blades of their Ontario 6141 Mk3 Navy knife on the throats of their opponents. They quickly slid it hard and inward, shoving the lifeless bodies forward, as the heads leaned awkwardly to the side. The MCPO was able to make out an unlocked service door to the kitchen. Mindful of any surprise, the operators stealthily positioned forward, one by one. With hand signals, the leader indicated to split the team into 2, making a motion to attack the defenders in a pincer move. The remaining 7 mujahideen defending the ground floor fidgeted in their place, while nervously waiting for the expected assault. They've been trained as special forces in the Middle East, but they have never fought before a real team. The casual and regular sniping from the front got into their nerves and caught all their attention. They have no opportunity to confer for a tactic. Hence signaling is limited, because of visual barriers from the various furniture and appliances. Jafar signaled that, if possible, they'll just overpower the jihadists. This is America, they can take prisoners. They crept forward, inch by inch. About 3 meters to the nearest enemy position, a mujahid suddenly swiveled his head back, and saw the approaching SEAL operatives. Ida. His warning of enemies was drowned by the rapid burst of automatic fire. In 10 seconds, there were 7 figures in grotesque angles, at the posh living room of the mansion. Fire in the hole. The MCPO shouted as a grenade sailed from the second floor. Everybody dropped to the floor and took refuge in anything that could cover them. An operator was caught off guard, and suffered some multiple lacerations from shrapnel in his legs. Commander Kaufman responded, and immediately charged upstairs, with his Belgian Minimi M249 light machine gun blazing. The other assaulters did their part, and in seconds, they cleared all the rooms in the second floor. The 4 jihadists did a heroic defense, but to no avail. The MCPO led the assault to the 3rd floor. He took his team in checking each room for any opponent, but all were empty. The other team arrived also at the lobby of the 3rd floor. Fucking traffic jam. Lieutenant Commander Patrick Kaufman ordered his troops to stand aside, and clear the hallway.
Thank you for watching. Write in the comments section, for your request as to what book, usually from Project Gutenberg, you want us to feature in U-Book channel.
Click like to boost the rating of U-Book channel, make a comment for us for the improvement of our services, and share this video to your friends, with the copyright intact. Please click subscribe, and hit the bell button to be notified of new uploads from U-Book channel.